Good night, everyone. I'm working on the electricity issues, projects. The Israelis continue with, terrorizing my room, the jail, with speakers and all sorts of very clever gadgets. They are literally, the evil person that is left the face of the devil in the gates of hell. So I thought, to speak a little bit about an issue which is actually not that important, I admit, but I never spoke about it, in the YouTube stage. And, it's kind of like, it's an anecdote that might be of interest to the public, or like the general audience. I think the people of the intelligence communities of the world that I assume they are most of my crowd, lamentably, perhaps all of my crowd, because I know that, you of course have the ability to block this channel to people that are not from the community. So of course, maybe it's the only audience, but in the case that I have an audience which is not part of intelligence communities all over the world, they might be very interested to hear, anecdotal analysis and evidence regarding specific issue that is related to my life, but not only to my life. This is something that related to many intelligence people of the intelligence community around the world. I am actually not a person I'm not part of any intelligence community, but I'm kind of like it's a peculiar case because everyone that I know is a part of the international intelligence community besides me. I'm the man in the iron mask, like Alexander Diomad. I'm the only one that does know nothing, because I have mask all my life. Nobody tells me who I am, and everybody is part of like conspiracy. So one thing, there was a recurring issue during the years that I create the blog and podcast, which is kind of fantastic or mythological, semi-mythological memoirs, where I recall episodes of my life, for my childhood or my family, and I analyze people of my family with all sorts of ways that are partly fantastic, and these stories are explicitly they contradict each other, and it's not only this contradiction not only occur with regards to my family. It's even more so. It's you can see it. Where in the many posts where I didn't spoke about it lately because it's kind of like it's behind. I'm done with this subject. So, but in the past it was a very common subject to speak about my romantic relationship with women throughout the years, and I spoke about it a lot during the last years. In Twitter, in Evernote. So, and many times I actually analyzed stories in a contradictory way, because many times women that I had like all romantic interest, sexual encounters, things like that. Actually, I kind of used them, not actually them, but used the story to elaborate on an aspect of my life. And so it was more like, it was more than a little a part, a big part of it was symbolic. And I know that it's difficult it's not a traditional way to analyze and to show people, to deal, to speak about your life. But my situation is not common. I'm in the darkness. I try to understand, the reality alone, me and God, and it's extremely difficult, and it requires, unorthodox methods, and especially a mixture of like method and divination, and also many rational consideration, and extremely, even I always say that I'm extremely skeptical and rational. I'm the most skeptical and rational person that you've ever met, and I've said it a lot of time during the years. And maybe if people were not actually convinced, I think that perhaps my ventures into the realm of hard science during the last months, perhaps it's kind of like brought more like substance to the claim. So actually, one of the subjects that I spend time to speak is about like the background of my family, both like the one that is like on the table, like the story as it was told by me, and alternative stories that I kind of like invented myself with the usage of divination and logic, and many times they actually contradicted each other, and I know that. But one thing that was right from the start of my journey was the issue of understanding the mythological or real origin, like place, like country of my family and my friends. And this was already exist. You can find it in the text that I call it תביעה לשינוי מקום מגורים. Like it's kind of like it's written like, at least on from the start, like it starts just like a kind of like a like a court, how do you say that? Yeah, that I sue like my ex-wife in Bal, in family court in Jerusalem. And the subject is that I ask to move out of Shoam to another city because Shoam is not good for us and for our children, because we both lived in Shoam, a separated couple that with shared custody. But it's very, it didn't really, it wasn't really a formal document, and it's only started like that, and it's kind of like in postmodern way. It's mixed many genres, and it very quickly like devolved like into also kind of like text in very postmodern way. It was one of the first texts that I written like during this journey, like almost 4 years ago now. תביעה לשינוי מקום מגורים. And it's very poetic, like, it deals with the people of Shoam in like mythological way, and one of the last issues that I speak about is actually that I kind of speak about my friends and my family, and I try to throw hints regarding, where they came from, like in the world. And it was also done in a very poetic way. So first of all, the layman could ask, what makes you think that they not all, Israeli, as the story goes? We have very firm Israeli roots. So what's the question to begin with? So I'll say the following. Again, during 2019, I worked in a high-tech company called MyHeritage, and because of many things that happened there and on other places, like let's say circles, like familial circles, like with friends, and I really liked it. It was a time that I participated very intensely in Olympic weightlifting. I really liked Olympic weightlifting in Tel Aviv. So it was there as well. All sorts of like many coincidences that, but especially at the workplace, and I've written about it. Quite right at the beginning, that led me to understand that I am actually a target of the intelligence community and also other intelligence agencies outside of Israel. But what baffled me is, I assumed that MyHeritage is a front-end company of the Mossad, or perhaps the Shabak. It doesn't really matter. It's all the same shit. But what baffled me was the fact that I encountered really peculiar and even bizarre work practices in MyHeritage that were extremely illogical and stupid and even cruel. And I understood that this shit is not, it has roots, but the roots are not the high-tech industry in Israel, and also not the military, which is very important in Israel as like the generator of the high-tech industry since many decades. But I know that I have knowledge of the high-tech industry, and I have pretty good knowledge of the high-tech, the software industry inside Tzahal, like in the military, and I haven't seen these kind of like behaviors, and I understood that it comes from another place because it's rooted very heavily. And I understood that the only thing that makes sense is that this is what I encounter actually organizational behavior that is firmly rooted inside the Mossad and the Shabak, but specifically the Mossad for many years, and that they borrowed disgusting organizational acts from the Mossad into their high-tech company, and of course that it turned out very sourly. And I've written about it, a post that is called Archipelago Gulag, but it's something that was very clear to me because this shit did not come from the military and it did not come from other high-tech companies. It came from the Mossad, and it was clear to me that it's so disgusting, but it's like, I don't just want to reiterate myself because I've already written about it, but I understood that this, and what I also understood is that actually the Mossad, which is so venerated in Israel as a majestic intelligence agency, like one of the best in the world, is actually a trash can. It's just a group of pedophile idiots, and it's actually a trash can. And the only thing that they excel in is that they're most cool. The cruelty is the only excellence. That's it. And I came to this conclusion very quickly. One of the first things I understood, during 2019, because in order to understand it, I didn't need to understand anything regarding my own life or my own peculiar situation. I just needed to actually look, around me and see the trash people bunch of prostitutes and lost boys and yes, so I could speak about it all night, but I've already written about it. So, and organizational, behavior, and it's something that was also, from the age of 18 when I joined the military, it was something that I was very interested in, how organization work and how political organization manifests itself, and what kind of managerial, there are all sorts of managerial styles, and there are many fashions in it, but it's not all fashion. It's actually many of it actually relies heavily on actual values that are never, the real values are never the ones that are actually exclaimed, but you hear the fuckers in the Shabak, they're terrorizing me. Yeah, piece of shit people. Right from the view, from the source, all of them, right from the source of all the world, this trash can people. So I understood that, and so it was something that I have a natural inclination to learn about organizations, and I firmly believe that every organization have real values, but it's never the values that they actually write on the wall. It's something that you should understand by investigation. But it's not all managerial fashion. There are roots to their behavior organizations. So, and I've understood that the Mossad is actually a trash can, and the only thing that actually makes them stand out is that they are the coolest of the coolest. That's it. And of course, that since then, this theory was verified again and again and again and again. Every day, it's verified. Again and again, that the Israeli intelligence is just big trash can. Now, another thing that I've learned, throughout my journey, this took, much longer, maybe 2 years, something like that. But, throughout my journey, I came to and it was documented, I spoke about it, I've written about it, but at a certain point, I understood that actually, during the last scandal, that happened, with my predecessor, as I said, I understood that I had a predecessor. He was a prophet like me. I don't know anything about him, but his life was actually very similar to mine in the way that, the Shabak did all the normal thing. They painted him as pedophile and homosexual, and they did the normal, the standard, this thing. So I understood that he was actually, he probably was born in the 40s or maybe 1950, and he was like me. He was Israeli. And he served in the military, and he had a ministry, his prophecy, but that was all very sad. And people, everybody tortured him like they do to me, but even worse. And he fought them. Because I don't know nothing about him, but I know that it's so much like my story. And actually, many times during the last 2 or 3 years, I reenacted things from his life. This was also, especially in the vicinity of Tel Aviv. There were a couple of people that actually followed me. Perhaps they know what I speak about, because there was very serious reenactment that I created videos and published. So it's something that had documentation. So and I assume that these were enacted. I assume that I feel things like I reenact like in a theater show, but something that actually happened, but a generation ago to this man. And I understood that, okay, I've spoken about it a lot, I cannot reiterate, but part of, the conclusion of the scandal that, happened like in the probably early 80s is that, that the Mossad was actually downgraded significantly by the Americans and the Soviets. They just, they practically, Americans practically, they are the real bosses of the Mossad. Of course, it's kind of like, and you need to understand something regarding, there is something that is known regarding intelligence agencies that they act like they compete with each other, not only with, between states, but also within actual, with the same country. And many people think that it's actually, beneficial and normal, because otherwise they will be too strong and too totalitarian. So it's fine that they actually compete inside the countries. So it's not that peculiar that Mossad is in the way competitor of the Shabak, even though they, on face value, they presumably deal with different material, but it's not exactly correct. There is some overlap, and especially there is an overlap with regards to the most important role, which is to actually create a unified and top-level intelligence report to the Prime Minister. So in that, it's of course they compete, with each other, even though the material is on face value very different, but it's not really that different. It's less different than people think. People that are outside the intelligence community, and this is not this is not something that is there are many jokes. That the CIA worst enemy is the NSA. It's a known issue, and it was like that in the Soviet Union. And actually, the KGB was not the only agencies; there were other agencies, and they competed with each other. So, and again, some people think that it's not it's okay. That it's not, only a posteriori something acceptable, as even a priori that it should be like that. So the Mossad is in conflict with the other intelligence agencies, and its top level is actually ruled from afar by the Americans. And this was part of the conclusion of the previous chapter regarding the revolutions and the slave trade and the things that I speak about, that were already, top priority during the 1980s. So why do I, so I thought to myself, I remember that, during this 2019, in the beginning of 2020, I thought to myself, okay, so if the Mossad and the Shabak, they are such trash cans, like it's a pool of garbage people. The logical, thing to that derived from it is that Israel is probably full of intelligent people from other countries. This is probably a viper nest of spies from all over the world, because in any case there are many reasons why it should be like that. Because it's in a country that, it's an immigrant country. Everyone came here from so many places. It's extremely easy, to send a spy to Israel. It's extremely easy to send, to create cells in Israel. This is all very, it's well known. It was like that since the beginning of the state of Israel, and it's part of it is by design. The government of Israel, since the initiation of the country, they understood it's going to be like that. They were not stupid, but it was a price that they were willing to pay, because for example, they knew that, when they opened the gates to like a million immigrants from Russia, from the Soviet Union, from the former Soviet Union, during the year 1990, 1991, where more than 1 million immigrants came to Israel that only had an existing population of something like 4 million. So, it was a huge increase in population. And it was designed, coordinated by the government itself. With a lot of, it's not something that just happened. It's happened because it was a great, push from the government. So they knew that part of that, of course, that the country will, that it will receive a ton of, Russian spies and Russian cells. They knew it's going to happen, but they thought to themselves, okay, so we will eat this frog, but we will get, on the other end, we are going to get 1 million people that that have both bad and good characteristic, but they have one incredibly beneficial and positive characteristic, which is the fact that their education level is far above the average, and it was also all courtesy of the Soviet Union. I mean, they learned. I mean, so many of them studied, and I mean, in top level like Soviet universities, and all. I mean, and many of them were actually pretty young. So I mean, it was a tremendous net value for Israel. I mean, they received so many scientists and doctors and nurses, and like I mean, the population was extremely beneficial for. I mean, they understood that it's going to happen. It wasn't like a surprise. So they received so much, like I mean, professionals. I mean, that were actually, and they didn't need to put like a shekel in their education because it was all courtesy of the Soviet Union, and they were not actually, many of them were not. I mean, they were pretty young, so so it was in the top of their, like the most productive years. The only thing that the government needed to do was actually to teach everyone Hebrew, and I mean to handle the real estate situation, which was very difficult, but it's still difficult because it's always difficult in Israel, the real estate situation. So, I mean, okay, so they knew, okay, we're going to get, I mean, many supplies. So fucking what? I mean, in the general like, view, I mean, the effect of the spies is I mean, not that significant with comparison to, I mean, the positive effect of all the doctors and the engineers and the nurses and also prostitutes, okay, and drug dealers. But I mean, in general, I mean, it was certain that they're going to get a tremendous net value from this wave of immigrants, and it was exactly like that. I mean, it wasn't a surprise. I mean, they knew it's going to happen. It was not. I mean, the demographic, like I mean, characteristics were not something. I mean, were not a secret. So yes, it's by design like that. That Israel is full of spies and full of cells, and many cells are actually. They are known to be cells by the Shabak. The Shabak, when they know about a cell from another country, they not. I mean, their instinct is not to actually, raid them and try to put them in jail. Because many times it's impossible, and it's considered. I mean, you cannot prove it, and many times, and mostly they don't like to do it because their philosophy is the philosophy of gardening. Like, yeah, let's just listen to. I mean, create a fence around the phenomenon and just follow them, maybe for like decades before we do anything. Maybe we'll not do anything at all because it's more beneficial for us to just sit on them and see what they're going to do. It's not. It's kind of like a behavior that is not characteristic only of the Shabak. I mean, it is known that many internal agencies, intelligence agencies around the world use this tactic, but the Shabak is an expert on it because they don't like to work, because they are trash can. They don't do. I mean, their main tool is to do this and the watch and to say words like focus, hot, and they expect to have like a magical. I mean, I don't know. That's 90% of what they do. They deal with their magical, I mean, theory of how to, I don't know, hypnotize people, and also, I mean, it's embarrassing to even be the victim of this. I mean, it's so low level that it's even embarrassing to be like on the like a victim. I mean, I'm kind of like it's not my fault. I'm a victim. I mean, what can I do? But it's so low. It's so disgustingly stupid that I feel like, I mean, God, please stop. It's so stupid. Why do I even need to be a victim of this retarded? And it's always, it surrounds me all my life. Like, I mean, they never stop. Of course, to this day, of course, like, it's all, that's what they do. They're incredibly stupid. So the philosophy of gardening sits very well with their incapacity and competence, because it demands very little by definition. So understood, yeah, I mean, when you factor, I mean, the demographic of Israel and the history of Israel, and when you factor the manifested fact that you positively see in front of your eyes, that the Mossad is actually trash can, that, I mean, it was full of trash people, and the Shabak is probably even worse. And later I discovered it was actually like that. It's even worse. So of course that, I mean, the logical, I mean, conclusion is that Israel is full of spies and foreign cells, and of course that it's true. So the next step is to think, okay, maybe many people that I know actually belong to foreign cells, and maybe it's not even completely secret. Maybe the Shabak know about it, but they prefer it like that for all sorts of reasons. So yeah, it's the case. I mean, in the only question, I mean, it's actually not that important. What's the case? I mean, it's such an important question, but it kind of anecdotally, it's interesting to ask. I mean, ourselves, for what countries they actually serve. Even though it's not that important, because from my point of view, it's me against Israel. I want this country to be destroyed. This is a trash country, a state of devils. It's hell, and it should be destroyed. And I mean, the question of what my friends. I mean, I don't have any more friends, but friends from the past, or romantic interests from the past, exes, women that I had sex with, or I mean, a relation, perhaps, I mean, a more serious relationship, and of course, I mean, family members. I mean, what do they serve? It's an anecdote. I mean, it's interesting only when it's part of like a narrative. I mean, that has some kind of mythological. I mean, explanative value. But I mingled with it. But I spoke about it because it's kind of like, it's interesting anecdotally. It's, again, I would say it's not that important because because the issue is me against Israel. I mean, and all the rest is not that important. I will say that maybe about a year ago, like maybe 6 months ago, or 8 months ago, I remember that I had like it was a weekend that I was without my daughters. It was the weekend with their mother. So I had a very short, long hike. I used to do it, before the arrest, I used to do a lot of hikes. And during the hikes, many times I spoke, I recorded stuff, and I mean, I'm sure that many of my audience, I mean, are aware of that. So it was, I remember that I hiked, and I actually reached Rehovot. I mean, I remember that it was in Rehovot. But accidentally, it's where my brother lives, but it's not. I mean, it was just, I mean, another city that I hiked. Like I walked with my legs. It was, and I came to some kind of like a new understanding regarding my life. I suddenly understood, like, I mean, I had like a new conceptualization of my life. I understood that during most of my life, I thought of myself as a very Israeli person, and of my family and friends and circles, like, like people that I encounter, like, as very strictly Israelis, and they manifest Israeli, a good Israeli, both bad and good Israeli, supposedly Israeli characteristics. I mean, because, I mean, I was naive. I thought that it's like a good country, because of course it's hell, it's trash country. I had no idea about the real situation, and I also thought that I kind of like, my family belongs to the in large to the defense community in Israel, or to the intelligence community, and that I have also a connection that I don't even know of, because much of it is secret, but it's all very Israeli. But then I understood it's all untrue. I mean, it's untrue, because the real Israelis and the real people of the intelligence community and the defense community of Israel, they are scumbags and illiterate, and they do, I mean, there is nothing that connects them and the actual people that I grew up with, my family and friends, that, I mean, part of them are bad, part of good. They have like all sorts of characteristics, but they are not even remotely similar to the real people of the Israeli community, intelligence community, which are all pedophile scumbags and thieves and murderers and the scum of the earth. And I understood that, I mean, my life actually, since childhood and until now, my life was actually kind of like a trek, like that you jump between, like, from one castle to another, and it's all in the state of in the land of Israel, and each castle is like kind of like a circle that you are part of, like, I mean, part of a friend or work or something, or all sort of like circles. And each castle is like is comparable to an embassy, but all castles have like broken walls. So you jump from an embassy to an embassy, which are all protected with big walls, because the land is full of mutants and cannibals and wildlings. So you have to be protected. I mean, when you stay in an embassy, but you were never actually protected, because all the walls are broken. So I was always, wherever I was, like in edge, like, I mean, station in my life, I was, I mean, part of like of like a castle, like a fort, a defense, a place that is defended from the outside, and it was run by like other people from other states. So it's in a way it was like an embassy, but it was, and it shielded me from the outside, from the extremely violent and pervert and sick nature of the people of Israel. But it didn't shield me entirely, because the barbarians always, wherever I was, the barbarians always, had chances, like, not constantly, but many opportunities they had to actually break inside the walls and like, terrorize me and my friends and my family. And that's one of the models of my life, jumping between semi-broken fortresses that are all in a way embassies of other nations. Okay, having said that, some people really need to ask me now. Okay, so give us several examples. Let's pick with examples. One of the things that I wrote about even like 2019, but the reasons there then were probably different from the reasons now. So, but I still believe it. But the reasons, the evidence and the reasons actually changed. So one of the things that I've written during 2019 is that my father, Israel David, he serves the United States of America, but he betrayed them. It's something that I've written like, in a poetic way. And my mother serves Russia. Now I have no Russian connections. Like, on face value, my mother is not related to Russia at all, or to the Russian culture at all, or to the Soviet, government at all, and she never spoke to me about it. And on face value, she had no connection to Russia at all, and she never spoke about it. And it's according to my knowledge, she can't speak even one word in Russian, and it was never part of like my culture or my childhood, thing like that. So it's kind of like a surprise, but it's always a surprise, because one thing that you should know about these intelligence cells, is that they always hide, like, even obsessively hide the real, government that they serve. And they do it too well. Many times, this is something that was not typical of my family and friends, but I've seen it in later in my life, when I actually met people of more trashy people, like of other intelligence agencies, that they like to use, to throw garbage at like the country that they serve. It's kind of like a hobby for them. Like, if, for example, if like I met like a fellow weightlifter in Maccabi Tel Aviv, that I suspected that he serves the Italian government. It's, if he was young and not very bright, and it was actually the fact. It was like that, and it was. It was common, more and more common. As my journey through life continued, because the longer, the deeper I get inside the source of the Israeli population. I meet more and more junk people. And it's always like they always break the record of how junk they are. So so you could expect such a person to trash talk about the Italian people and about the government, and speak a lot how they always change government and they cannot rule themselves, and it's like a junk country, and you straight away you suspect, okay, that guy's, if you didn't suspect it already, now you suspect that he served the Italian government. This is something that does not characterize my family and close friends, because they were, again, they were, they were on average in much higher personal level in intelligence. But yeah, it's you can see it a lot. So there is nothing in that you can actually, say or think about my life that will lead you to believe that my mother serves Russia. But it was a divination, and it was written in a very poetic way. Same thing about my father. Nothing, like on the surface, nothing about my father, connects him to the United States of America. Nothing at all. I never thought about it like until 2019, when all these thoughts about intelligence communities came to my mind. there is actually, I mean, it's complete shock, but it's not really a shock, because when you reframe your life and you try to understand these people, like, not the way that you always thought they are, but the way they really are, and you understand the situation at large, you understand, I mean, how these things work. I will also say that my brother Uri and his wife Olga, that, I mean, supposedly have no connection to the United States at all. They also, like my father, served the United States of America. And Shir Perry, an ex-girlfriend, I actually, I mean, we cohabitated for like a year and a half. I mean, we lived together, but and anyway, we didn't marry, and after that, I mean, after some time, I met Inbal, and I was very happy that, I mean, I didn't marry Shir, because Inbal, yeah, she had much bigger boobs. Having said that, Shir was also, she also served the United States. And Uri and Olga and my father. And my mother serves Russia. And this is entirely shocking. I mean, but it's true, because, and it's kind of, I mean, to understand it, you need to actually understand the way that, not my family, because this in itself will give you no evidence, but to understand how the intelligence community works. One thing is certain, my mother she has like hostile relationship with the intelligence community of Israel. Like, they keep watch her for many years now, and there is hostility, there is a real hostility here, and someone is protecting her, because otherwise she'll be like dead or broke since long ago. So she obviously has some kind of protection. It's not coming from the Israelis that hate her. So the actual protection comes from the Russian government, and since Russia has so many spies in here, I mean, they can help her in many ways if they want, and they want. I mean, she's not rich or something, but I mean, she's alive, and she's not, I mean, she has some money, and you know, of course, she's herself, I mean, she's a professional, and I mean, she's like, I mean, has a PhD and very smart woman, and like, she has a private clinic, and which, I mean, is very, I mean, she's very skilled at what she does, but all of this would not have helped her if the Shabak was hostile towards her, and it is, and if she had no protection from another government, and she had the protection, and this government is the government of Russia. By the way, an anecdote, she is a psychologist, and her profession, she has a very specific, professional, field of gifted children, and she advised to their parents, and and she also treats the children themselves. And she lives in Rishon LeZion. That's where the apartment that I'm imprisoned in this apartment right now, and she accepts clients here. And a peculiar anecdote is that throughout all the years, she had never had clients from Russian ethnicity. And this is amazing, because there are so many Russians in Israel. I mean, many of them are not really Russians, but I mean, we call them Russians, but I mean, they're formerly the Soviet Union, we call them Russians many times. Even though many of them are actually Ukraine, so it's kind of like ironic to call them Russian, but it's kind of an habit in Israel, so forgive me for that. So she had so many clients throughout the year, but not Russians. And it's peculiar, because there are tons of Russians in Israel. There are tons of Russians in Rishon LeZion. Rishon LeZion is known as a Russian city. This city. And on top of that, Russians like to, I mean, many of them are like high IQ, and many of them are, I mean, the percentage of the gifted children in the Russian, within the population of the Russian immigrants in Israel is actually higher than the general population. And they also, I mean, education is more important than in average for the Russian parents. So how can you explain that? I mean, she didn't have any, like, or maybe one or two, I mean, but I mean, negligible percentage of the clients is actually Russians. And this is peculiar. And it's Rishon LeZion, it's the kind of like a Russian capital of the educated Russian, like, immigrants to Israel. So what happens here? Actually, most of their clients are Russians, but you will never expect it because they don't speak Russian and they don't look Russian and they don't identify as Russians, but they serve the Russian government. But don't tell anyone that I said it because it's a secret. You could ask, why are you so lenient in like discussing, secret things that you managed to like discover or you think you managed to discover? And the answer is very simple. All of this is not relevant because the days of this country of Israel are numbered. It's all history. Most of the people will actually will watch this video, will actually watch this video long after Israel is history. This country is going to collapse very soon. And God, good riddance, because it's the most sinful and disgusting state that ever existed. This is hell. It should be terminated right now. Trash country, trash people, trash population. It's just a state of slaves and slave owners and pedophile and these people, the scum of the earth. And all those speculations regarding the ethnicity or what government actually people serve is really, as I said in the beginning, it's not important at all. It's only anecdotes. And these are anecdotes I mainly presented for like audience that is not part of the intelligence community because it has no real value as far as intelligence goes because this country will collapse very soon and nothing will be left of it. So, it's who cares? Who cares?